I believe so. Let me make sure.
Welcome. Thank you for spending your afternoon with us. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hello there, I'm Clackamas County Commissioner Sonia Fisher, and it is my distinct honor to be here to host Senator Merkley in Clackamas County. To begin, I would like all of our elected officials to stand, if you could. All right, wave and say hello, and if you can give a round of applause to everyone, that would be wonderful. And with that, I will introduce Senator Merkley. I do have to give a little personal story in that it was in the 1990s after he was first elected. He was the freshman legislator from the same district where I was staff for Senator Frank Shields. And I had such a wonderful time. We had quite the team of working together and to work with his staff. And I can tell you, when Senator Merkley was a new state representative, his thinking was unstoppable, and his staff, we just had a terrible time trying to corral him. It was absolutely impossible. So it's been an absolute pleasure watching him represent us from state representative to now U.S. Senator. So with that, a little bit about his history. During his service as state representative, and as our United States Senator, Jeff Merkley has emphasized fighting for the success of Oregon's working families. That means fighting for good paying jobs, strong public schools, and affordable college and health care. Just last year, he served the Civilian Conservation Course Program, including Timber Lake and Estacada. And we have Katie here, Councilor Dunsmuir from Estacada, so that was a big deal for not only all of Clackamas County, but especially for Estacada. And he used his seat on the Senate Appropriations Committee to include language that prevents CCCs from future attempts to close them. He also secured more than $2 billion for affordable housing and homelessness services. Jeff is a native Oregonian and a son of a millwright. He was born in Myrtle Creek, Oregon, and his family moved with the timber economy to Roseburg and then to East Multnomah County. He was elected to the Oregon House of Representatives in 1998. In 2007, he became Speaker of the Oregon House and held that post until he was elected to the U.S. Senate. He began his involvement in policy as an intern for Oregon Senator Mark Hatfield. In 2009, he was sworn into the same Senate seat once held by Mark Hatfield. Jeff holds an open town hall in every Oregon county every year. This is his 23rd town hall this year and his 419th overall town hall. And we are very happy to have him representing us. Thank you, Senator Merkley. Let's please welcome him.
Well, greetings, everyone. This is an excellent turnout under the especially under the circumstances that we're now facing, where people are thinking twice about coming out to public events in the face of the coronavirus. But before we get to talking about that and other things, at the beginning of each town hall, I like to shine a light on an organization that is doing important things in the community. And today we're going to shine that light on an organization called HINT, the Hispanic Interagency Networking Team. And I think Maria is here, possibly with a few other people. Come on up, Maria. Welcome. So this team was formed in Clackamas County in 1988, and it helps promote dialogue between issues that affect the Hispanic community, many nonprofits and governmental agencies. And would you like to tell us a little bit more about the work you're doing?
Thank you, Senator Merkley. It's an honor to be here today and to be recognized. Our organization, the Hispanic Interagency Networking Team, has been around, as you heard, for a very long time. And I am proud to say that we are a bridge to the Latino community, but also other communities. We like to take information that is vital and important, what is going on in the community, out via monthly forums. And we have forums on different topics, everything from immigration issues. We have one coming up on March 18th that's on civic engagement, and it is open to all communities. Everyone is welcome. The one on March 18th is going to be at the Prince of Life Church on Myers Road, and we're going to have staff from Senator Merkley's office, and we're going to be talking about really important stuff like the importance of registering to vote, the importance of participating in the upcoming census, and as much as possible, we are trying to communicate with communities that are in fear of being involved with government and with other agencies, trying to kind of ease that fear so we can get as many communities participating in the census as possible, because it's going to be really important to get that accurate count. Also as HINT, we sponsor cultural events. We partner with the community. We have an upcoming Latino Festival, which happens at the Clackamas Community College on June 27th. And we celebrate the contributions of Latinos and then also our cultural, our culture, right? So we're going to have dancers and music and food, a soccer tournament. Like I said, everyone is invited to our events. Go to our HINT Facebook page. We have current events that are happening. When we don't have the monthly forums, we have what's called a hangout, and that's a casual gathering that we have at Pacho's Restaurant in Oregon City, where anybody can drop by to share information about their programs or upcoming events with the community. And the HINT organization has over 100 agencies and organizations that we partner with. So if you ever want to share information with the Latino community and other communities, we are also a great venue to get that important information out there, because we're able to reach communities far and wide to get these important issues out there. And it's a great honor to accept this recognition. We do this as part of volunteer. We have a passion for helping people and representing communities that are underrepresented, but we do it on a volunteer basis. We still are very proud to do that. It's a very important job, and all of us have really big hearts. Not everyone on our steering committee is Hispanic. Like I said, we take anybody that wants to be part of HINT in. You just have to have a passion for helping people, and that's all that is required. Thank you very much.
I love that phrase, a passion for helping people, and people who want to be involved can contact Maria. And a way of celebrating your work and saying thank you, this is a flag for you to use in an appropriate fashion that has been flown over the United States Capitol. Well, welcome everyone. I want to say a few words about the coronavirus, and we have an expert with us. And so I wanted to invite her to come up and join us, Dr. Caroline Castillo, and Dr. wherever you are. Oh, there you are. All right. Great. Welcome. And I'll just share a few thoughts, and if we have some really quick questions, the doctor can address them, but we want to make sure we get to the broader audience and your questions on whatever issues that you're concerned about. One way to think about what we're facing with this coronavirus is if you will, related to the common cold. Common cold is a coronavirus. Similarly, our experts tell us that this is spread in a similar fashion by people who are sneezing or coughing and hand-to-hand contact. So an important way to interrupt the transmission from one person to another is to wash your hands. And to wash them, as the doctor was saying earlier, while singing to yourself, happy birthday twice, was that it?
Yeah, you can
20 seconds. Depends on how fast you sing at home. You can also use hand sanitizer. That's in short supply now. Washing works very well. You can think about the fact that you become infected when your hand goes to your face, so try to avoid that. Every time my nose itches, I go, what am I going to do now? But these are the basic mechanisms. People have wanted to know. I was making a lot of phone calls last weekend, and people were saying, how fast is this going to be transmitted through the population, and how dangerous is it? And we don't know the exact answer. We know that the national cases have gone up very quickly. From 7 days ago, some 24 cases, to 2 days ago, 120 cases, to this morning, 300 cases. But that may well be the result of a lot more testing, not just transmission. So a lot more people may have had it all along. So we don't really know how fast it's going to be transferred between people. In terms of how dangerous is it, the estimates are that it may be as dangerous as the flu, or it may be significantly more dangerous. But again, we're not really sure. Think about the flu. Flu comes every year, and if you go back to the last 10 years, in a light flu season, some 14,000 Americans die. In a heavy flu season, upwards of 60,000 die. So even if it's like equivalent to the flu, that's a serious thing for us to be concerned about. But we can also think about the fact that we don't shut down society because of the flu, and if it's in that same ballpark, we won't be shutting down events too much because of this. But for the moment we are, because we're uncertain. What would you like to add, Doctor?
I think you've touched on the key parts. I think the other thing I would like to add is if you are ill, if you're feeling sick and you can, please stay home. Take care of yourself. That will help us interrupt transmission as well. So I think that's the only other thing. And if there are resources on your local public health website, the CDC is a very good resource for information. The Oregon Health Authority and the World Health Organization are really the sites that I go to on a regular basis. So yes, and I appreciate being able to be here with you. Thank you.
Well, let's do this. Rather than take questions on this now, if questions come up in the range, we may have you jump up and give us more answers. That would be great. So we're going to go to, there's a billion ordinary issues, and I say ordinary in that they come up all the time: healthcare, housing, education, infrastructure, good paying jobs, the Equality Act, foreign relations, issues of war and peace. So whatever's on your mind, feel free to share a thought or a question. If someone is speaking whom you dramatically disagree with, please double down on your graciousness. Let that person have their say. All across America, town halls have been disappearing, but we've been really fighting for the Oregon way, keeping town halls, having people be able to express their opinion throughout the whole range of possibility, and to do so without being attacked, if you will. So let's maintain that tradition here today. And I believe that our commissioner has agreed to mix these up really well, and why don't you just pick out 3 and toss them my way. Okay. I see we have both blue and white. So I'm going to just say the color of the ticket and the last 3 numbers on the ticket, rather than the whole thing, because the first 3 numbers will be the same. So, and if you raise your hand, we'll go quickly. If people don't raise their hand, we'll go on to the next 3 tickets and just keep rolling. So let's start with blue ticket 284, blue ticket 289, and white ticket 261. Any of those 3? Why don't I get some backups here? Yes. And maybe you can start with your number and your name, please.
89 Don Klosterman.
Thank you.
And my concern is...
We've got a microphone for you.
I'm reading a book called Runaway Inequality. And in there I found about 3 different things. One was that people who are venture capitalists make $500,000 an hour, and that's more than some people make in their whole lifetimes. The second is that in the recent tax breaks, what we're doing as a government, we give money to the rich, so they get the break. Then we go into debt, and so we have to borrow the money back, so we could take the money back from them and pay them 5 or 6% or whatever for that. So I don't know if any other country or any other business would run that way. So I would really, and the other one is the financial strip mining of companies. Would you like to talk about inequality and some things that can be done to take care of that?
Well, thank you for raising this issue of wealth and income inequality. And let's start with a little feedback here from you all. Option A is for Congress to do a $2 billion tax reduction that goes almost universally to the richest people. And the second option is to spend $2 trillion on healthcare, housing, education, and jobs. How many people want option A? How many of you like option B? Okay. How is it that we ended up with option A from Congress in 2017 when it does so little for so few? Well, it does a lot, $2 trillion, but for the already really well off. And the answer is money in politics. And we've got to take on the corruption of our institutions. We were founded with a vision to be a counterpoint to the kingships of Europe that were government for and by the powerful. And the we the people is, the idea was distributed power that would produce laws, as Jefferson said, that reflect the will of the people. So why is it we're reflecting the will of the people? Well, gerrymandering, voter suppression, dark money in campaigns, and the concentration of wealth. What happens with that concentration of wealth that a very few people can exercise disproportionate power through teams of lawyers, through teams of lobbyists, through control of the media or advertising on the media, through campaign donations, through dark money, third-party campaign donations. And that results in laws that reflect not the will of the people, but the will of the powerful. So there is a bill called For the People Bill. It's passed the House. In the House it was called H.R. 1. In the Senate, Tom Udall of New Mexico and I are the leads on it. And it takes on gerrymandering and voter suppression and dark money and ethics. So what I want to see us do to start with is pass that For the People Act in January of 2021. I've asked my team to research across the spectrum of time and democratic republics to find examples of where a society has gotten as unequal as ours and then reversed itself to do more investments in the fundamentals for families without a Great Depression, without a war, and without a revolution. Well, we're still looking, which tells you how difficult that is going to be. But we've got to start by restoring the integrity of our national institutions. If we don't do that, we will lose on everything else. Okay, did we have either of those other first two? That was blue 284 and white 261?
Yes,
right over there. Are you being forced to question?
I'm just a little bit shy.
Welcome. Good to have you.
Thank you. I am a VA employee, Portland VA employee, and what I would like to know is, how are you, what is going on with the union, and how can you support the union? How can you help us with the union?
Which union did you say you're part of?
The Portland VA.
Oh, VA, okay. And did you want to know in the context of VA or more broadly?
Both, if you don't mind touching on both of them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I probably need to come up to speed of the details of the work of the union in the VA. I haven't heard anything recently, so I'd be happy to have you brief me, or I can get in contact. Dan Maurer is here, and where's Dan? Over here. He is my field representative, and he also works on labor issues, so let's connect you to him. I can speak more broadly that in part this issue of distribution of resources is affected by the ability of workers to organize. And there is an act called the PRO Act, which is about making it possible for workers to organize more easily, to get a first contract more easily, because even when there is a union, it's very hard to get that first contract. And so I'm very supportive of the PRO Act. It has passed the House of Representatives, but this is where things are just dying in the Senate. 350 bills, healthcare, housing, education, jobs, infrastructure, dying in the Senate with no consideration on the floor. So I'd love to see that PRO Act get to the floor so we can strengthen the ability of workers to get a fair share of the wealth they're working to create.
They've disbanded they've broken them down.
Oh, in VA they disbanded it? Well, that would explain why I haven't heard about it. Yeah. He was just mentioning that the union has been disbanded in the VA. So let me catch up and get more information about it. Thank you. Dan, why don't you also give your card so we connect you right away. Okay. So do we have white 261? Going forward then, white 247, white 254, and blue 273. We're going to keep Sonia working here. Not once more, 273 blue, 254 white, and 247 white.
There they are.
Okay.
I've been caught short, I'm afraid. I don't know. I'm a librarian in Clackamas County, and I hope that everyone here supports your local library in Clackamas County. You'll be hearing from...
Go library!
Thank you so much. You'll be hearing more from us in the next year or so, a couple of years. We may need your help.
Okay, well thank you very much for joining us today. Which number did you have?
I have white 254.
Thank you. 247? 273? Feel free to keep 3 of them here. All right, we'll go ahead and all these are blue. 251, 269, and 267.
I'm 267,
Thank
and
you.
are we doing a microphone or just yell? Oh. I'm Nancy Mina. I'm the national president of Gold Star Wise of America, and since so many of those questions didn't get asked, I'm going to do a 3-part question. So I want to know your support, first of all, on the DIC Increase Act of 2019. Military widows have not received an increase since 1993. We get a 43% of what a 100% disabled veteran gets. We'd like it to be 55%, which is parity with all the other federal employee programs to exceed there. So I'd like to know your view on that. There's other 2 parts. Your support for suicide prevention in the military, and also I would like to see a presumptive, if a person saw combat and committed suicide, that should be an automatic PTSD claim without the family having to fight for 10 years. And number 3, colon cancer, burn pits, everyone should be screened who's exposed to burn pits, and I don't think that's a legislative thing at this time. But those are my three issues: the compensation, suicide, and burn pits. Thank you.
Okay, I'm very supportive of the bill on the burn pits. My involvement goes back on issues related to veterans being exposed when they're in service. Goes back to Agent Orange in the 1980s, and we've had several victories. Agent Orange, as it affected people who were on planes that carried it. Agent Orange, as it affected those who were in the vicinity on the blue water ships. And then this burn pit is a very similar situation, so we're fighting for that presumption of illnesses related to it. In terms of your first point, I want to mention that it was at a town hall that a veteran came up to me and said, by the way, let me explain, a Gold Star family is a family who has lost a loved one in combat, in war. And it is, we have had various laws for the children, and a veteran came up and said the education benefits that exist for the children don't exist for the spouse. So that was an effort I undertook and got passed, and now Gold Star spouses do have full access to the same education benefits as the children, which felt like a real victory, and it came from an idea at a town hall. I'm not familiar, you use the words DIC, and I'm not sure what that meant.
Dependent indemnity compensation. I did leave a fact sheet with your field office.
Great.
I spent all last week meeting with different senators and representatives explaining it. The bill is the 2019 Improvement Act, and we're just looking for more co-sponsors, so hopefully you'll take a look at it.
I will absolutely take a look at it. And I do have a member of my team who works only on veterans cases for veterans access to benefits and so forth. And so Dan's going to be dropping a card off to you. And you said you left sheets out yonder? Okay. Let me get it. And what was the second point?
That suicides,
yeah.
should be presumptive. The family should not have to fight 10 years to get a claim for their benefits. If it was suicide and they saw combat, it should be presumptive.
Great. I will absolutely look into this. We have suicides at a rate of about 20 per day. It's enormous. Our veterans who serve in these high-stress environments, Iraq and Afghanistan, it does a whole lot of infliction of difficulty on your spirit, your soul, and it's very hard to be in that zone and come back to ordinary civilian life, and your family's changed while you're gone. There's a lot of disconnect from society, and so I'll definitely look at that, and thank you for raising it. And let's take just a moment and ask all our folks who have served to stand up and be recognized for their service to our country. (269) and 251, blue. They're in the middle, and did we have someone else? Can I get 3 more?
Hello, my name is Dennis.
Dennis, welcome, and can your number, please?
My number is 7269. So my question is, 4 years ago, you were the first Democratic senator to endorse Bernie Sanders. So now, in 2020, I'm here to ask you, will you endorse him again?
I'm going to make national news right now. Well, maybe not. No, I've chosen to stay out of the endorsement world this time around. And so thank you for asking. It's very nice of you to raise it. Sorry to disappoint you. Okay, we have 293, 281, 283. All of those are blue. 283, 281, 293. Right over here. And anyone else in that group? Right back there. Okay, we'll go to you next.
Lorraine Hubbard. I've lived here in Clackamas County. I was
Lorraine.
born and raised here.
And which number do you have, Lorraine?
281.
Thank you.
So, My concerns are the homelessness in Portland, all the tents you see around town, the debauchery going on, the garbage. You know, I have family that lived in Selwood, and they moved out of Selwood because people were camping on the sidewalks in front of their house. And so they moved away. I mean, it's just running the people that have lived here forever out of the state. And I know several that that's happened to. Also, another concern of mine is the immigration, the people coming to the U.S. without going through illegal means. And I know you're supporting, you've been down on the border a few times. Actually, I read an article in the Portland magazine that you were down there taking pictures. And, you know, I'm for people coming, but I want them to come legally.
So would you like me to talk about housing or immigration? We'll give you the choice.
Housing.
Housing. Okay. So we have experienced a huge deficit of housing and a huge increase in the prices. And think about this. You know, I'm the son of a mechanic. When my father bought a 3-bedroom ranch house, it cost the equivalent of 2 years of mechanic's wages. Now that's about 5 times. The same house, it's about 5 times. So home ownership is out of reach for tons of people. And if you throw in the debt that people are carrying if they attend college and carry debt, then that really affects it as well. So I've been fighting for a lot more natural resources to be invested in housing. That question I asked at the beginning about $2 trillion to make the rich richer or $2 trillion to invest in healthcare, housing, education, that's the point. We have a choice in our country where we're investing, and we've been deeply underinvested. So we did get some additional resources this last year, $130 million more for homelessness specifically, $2 billion more for rental assistance, and then more assistance. There's a series of other categories like rural housing and so forth that were bumped up. But in terms of the size of the challenge, it's a very modest amount of money. For comparison, we're spending $45 billion a year in Afghanistan here for a war that started 19 years ago. We need a lot more resources on the housing front. And we have to do things that are cost effective. If you look at the cost of building a 2-bedroom apartment, it's gone up. When I was building 2-bedroom apartments for a nonprofit, it was about $80,000. Now it's over $250,000. We need to build SROs, single-room occupancies. I lived in one, and it enabled me to live on almost nothing because it cost me $50 a week to live in an SRO. We need to have a small house communities. We need to have shelters to say that here is a place you can put a mattress down for the night and you have access to a shower and a bathroom. We need the whole spectrum, and we need to invest a lot more. It is, in my mind, not acceptable that we end up in the situation we're in right now, as you put it, as a can on someone's sidewalk in front of their house. But before you can ask the family to move, there has to be a place they can move to, and that would be a place with resources and sanitation and showers and bus transportation to the transportation system. And those things could be accomplished. These are state and city, mostly city laws that affect that. But at the national level, what I can fight for is a whole lot more resources. I'm going to be introducing a major housing bill 2 weeks from now that will try to lay out this spectrum. I've had my team meeting with housing experts throughout Oregon and across the country saying, what's most cost effective? What should we do more of? How should we change our strategy? I know that won't make it to the floor of the Senate this year, but I'm hoping that we can get it to the floor of the Senate next year. So thank you for raising it. How many people are concerned about housing? Yeah, very, very big. I'd say healthcare and housing are the 2 biggest issues that I hear about right now. I think, sir, you were next.
Hi, my name's Graham, 283. I work for AFG, the VA union. I'd like to talk afterwards. I want to thank you for your strong support of VA and other agencies. They haven't actually disbanded the union for VA, but the Trump executive orders have really curtailed those rights. But the President did issue a memo a month ago that would prohibit Department of Defense employees from having access to a union, like National Guard who are here at Camp Withicum. I want to thank you for signing a letter recently this week, along with all Democrats in the U.S. Senate, to the Defense Secretary, urging him to reject that. And he actually said he did not request that ruling that the President issued. And I'm curious, how common is this for people like that in the cabinets of the agencies to clearly be caught off guard by the White House and to receive directives that they don't agree with?
In the past, it was very rare. In the last couple of years, it's not been too rare. There's a whole lot of ideas being generated by think tanks that are bypassing the normal idea processing, policy processing, and suddenly they're being issued and catching people completely off guard. So, yeah. Thanks for the additional details, and I'm going to be learning more about that situation. Thank you. So we have, did we have anybody else in that last group? White 264, and 3 blue, 248, 274, and 271. Did I see a hand back here? Right there, okay. Your number and your name, please.
I'm number White 264. My name is Patty Boyd, and I'm your healthcare question. But before I ask it, I look like one demographic. I'm a white woman over 60, but my family is highly diverse in its backgrounds. We are gun violence survivors. We work in education and social services, and potentially police. So we've got a wide social network background. But to specifically for this question, healthcare issues have been going on for years. It transcends presidential years when they're in office. So to me, this is a congressional issue. Healthcare has not been fixed. We have unequal healthcare for so many people. What I get and what somebody else gets can be very unequal. How is Congress going to change that?
Okay, I'm getting on my crystal ball. Thank you, Patty. Our healthcare system is very stressful. We've got a situation where we have not one system, but multiple systems. Of course, we have the VA system. We have insurance through your private employer. We have insurance through the Oregon Health Plan, that is Medicaid and expansion of Medicaid. We have the exchange, where you can buy insurance with tax credits. We have a workplace health care called workers' compensation. So we have many, many interacting, complicated systems. And how many people would like to see a seamless, simple system where you have health care coverage just by virtue of living in the United States of America? Count me in too. There are two main ways of getting there. Well, there's multiple ways of getting there. One way is through a public option and having people be able to choose Medicare. And I have a bill called Choose Medicare. It's set up so that anyone could choose to be part of that public option, and you could, once you're in it, you can carry it the rest of your life. And folks who wanted to keep the health care that they have, Kaiser Blue Cross, or whatever it is, could keep that. I think that that's a reasonable way to make an advance towards it. We had a public option in the Affordable Care Act that was stripped out because of the enormous lobbying power of the private insurance companies. If we don't pass the For the People Act, and if we don't take on the problem of the U.S. Senate now needing a supermajority for any policy bill, we will not be able to pass anything like this public option. It's going to take grassroots people across the country saying, we want that opportunity. It will create a lot more competition on the exchange. I was confronted by a business group that said, you know, not exactly a supportive fashion, I would say, what about this crazy public option idea you have? And I said, before I answer that, how many businesses in this room have the safe insurance for your workers' compensation? And most people raised their hands. Yes, they had safe insurance. I said, well, you, the business community, have chosen a public option for your workplace insurance. Doesn't it make sense? What works well to reduce the cost in the workplace, doesn't it make sense to have that option available outside the workplace? And I think that was a pretty good argument. The other big cost is gouging on drugs. And there's three main ways. We pay the highest price. We sometimes pay 10%, 20% more than other people in the other developed nations. Sometimes we pay 10 times, 100 times more for the same drug as people in other developed countries. So there's been three main ways of taking this on. And I'm going to give you all a chance to say if you like this idea or not. The first idea is you could re-import from approved, vetted Canadian pharmacies. How many would like to see that as a possibility? How many people would oppose that? Okay. About 50% like it, and not too many raise their hands against it, so a lot of uncertainty. Second is to let Medicare negotiate the price of drugs. How many people think that'd be a step forward? Okay. How many people would oppose that? And the third is to say that if you sell drugs in the United States, you can't sell for a price that's higher than the average of how you sell it in Canada, Japan, Australia, and the That's really the most supported of the three ideas, and I love that because that's my bill. So thank you. Last year, President Trump said, I want to do a reference bill that keeps people from paying more than people in other developed countries pay. I was like, yes! And so I had my team contact his team and say, I've got the bill ready to go. Let's team up. Merkley, Trump, ready to go. Right here. And then the president met with CEOs of pharmaceutical companies, and a week later he withdrew his idea. This goes back to the challenge of the money in our political system. There are, and I'm still trying to get this fact checked, so I may not be right, but I'm publicly saying I haven't fact checked this yet, that there are 5 drug lobbyists for every member of Congress. That's the type of influence we're facing. In addition to the lawyers, in addition to the money that is in the campaign system. Those two things, a public option and a reference bill where we get the same fair deal everyone else gets in the developed world, those would go an enormous way to a better, more cost-effective coverage for all. Thank you for raising it.
Did you have 248 white or just 248 blue?
248 blue, yes.
Oh no, I'm white, so.
Oh, you're white. Oh. Okay, and then we had 274 blue and 271. Yes, sir.
My question is...
And which number, sir?
It's blue 271.
Thanks.
My question is about the college education today. My kid will be going to college next year, and I don't understand why we pay for school all the way through high school, but it's fine, but once you get to college, you're on your own, and we got these building costs of college. When I went to college, I paid $10,000. And now I'm looking to pay triple that for my kid.
Only triple?
Well, we're sending him to a cheaper college, because that's all we can afford.
This is a very big deal. If we talk about the American dream, it's the idea of opportunity for all. And so my dad told me when I was a kid, he said, go through the doors of the schoolhouse and you can do just about anything because we're so fortunate to live in America. And I love that idea of opportunity for everyone. Even the son of a mechanic living in a blue-collar community would have chances to thrive. Well, more and more of our jobs require education past high school. And we need to support career technical education and apprenticeships. There's great jobs that don't require college, but a lot of jobs do. A lot of visions do. And so it's even more important. And think about when I came out of high school, if you lived at home during the summer and had a minimum wage job, you could pay tuition in Oregon State or University of Oregon. How about we go back to that ratio of tuition that doesn't exceed minimum wage for a summer? That would make college affordable again. And we should realize that so many people are burdened by so much debt. So one is to keep the debt from occurring in the first place, but for everybody who has this heavy debt, shouldn't they be able to refinance to the same low rate the big banks get, 1% basically, when they borrow from the federal government? That would incredibly reduce the burden on folks paying 6%, 8%, 10%. So that is also a bill that I'm fighting for. And let's increase the, and increasing programs could make a very big difference as well. Again, it comes down to, are we willing to invest in the fundamentals? If you look around the world, we are slipping. We're slipping on housing, we're slipping on education, we're slipping on infrastructure. So I personally spent a couple of years working for Secretary Weinberger in the Secretary of Defense, so I was in the Pentagon. I spent years working on strategic nuclear policy for Congress. There is enormous waste in our military system. We sometimes say, isn't it great that we have a military equal to the next 10 largest militaries in the world? Well, maybe. Yes, national defense matters. National defense matters a lot. But can we afford to slide on healthcare, housing, and education because we're trying to police every corner of the world and are still engaged in wars that perhaps we shouldn't have undertaken in the first place? I think we have to shift a lot of resources into healthcare, housing, and education and infrastructure. Okay, did anybody else in that group? Over here, yes.
Hi, my name is Stevie Parsons. I am a board member of the National Wildlife Federation.
And your number, please?
274.
Thanks.
And I am also a member of the Northwest Steelheaders. And I'm here today to speak for salmon and wild steelhead because they haven't yet figured out a way to come to one of these towns. That may be in the future now. That may change.
A little fish ladder outside the building.
There you go. I like that thought. More fish ladders. First of all, I'd like to thank you for your help with the sea lion problem. The wild steelhead population has increased in the Willamette 7 times the amount since 2017. So we can do things that work for salmon. The other thing I would like to talk about, it's still in the salmon thing, is this Columbia River is seeing, Columbia Basin is having a huge decline. The 2020 season will be the shortest I've ever seen. And people, when you think of salmon, a lot of people are just, well, I can get that at the store. But they're not thinking of the economic effects. Salmon, the jobs that come from it, the economic effects with bringing people to the state, to stay in hotels, and on and on. And the other thing is, I think we can get collaborative solutions to the lower Snake River dams. We're intelligent. We should be able to come up with a solution that works for salmon and that also helps our farming communities. And last, the DEIS is coming out about salmon. It has never, ever been helpful to salmon. We do not expect it will be helpful to salmon. We need to do more for salmon and steelhead because that's also a big part of Oregon. Getting your fishing license each year is almost like getting a lottery ticket, but it's one that you stand a good chance of cashing in on. It is a great levelizer. It enables a person who is not able to pay $30 or $40 a pound for spring salmon to do it the Oregon way. Go out and catch it yourself. Go out and hunt it yourself. We need to take care of and preserve these features. Can we count on you, Senator, to continue that fight for us?
Yes, you sure can. And you mentioned the example of the challenge we face with the sea lions. And the sea lions were going up to the tributaries off the river and just hanging out and keeping the salmon from going up and spawning. They're going to the fish ladders and hanging out right in front of the fish ladders, in some cases actually getting into the fish ladder, which I don't know how the hell they did that because they're big animals. So we worked out a deal this last year. I was immersed in this. We went through about 20 versions of a bill and worked out an arrangement and included a number of tribes in this to be able to remove the few sea lions that swim all the way up to Columbia and then cause all of this havoc on the migration of salmon. There's more effort going on every part of the puzzle, habitat. I must say we're really worried about the ocean conditions. The Pacific Ocean is warmer and more acidic than it was before, which is having a big impact on the whole set of sea life. When the salmon don't have enough to eat at sea, then the salmon rates really drop as well. So we have issues of cormorants on the island in the Columbia River. So there's many pieces of this puzzle to undertake. And I mean, this is a way of thinking about the health of our entire river ecosystem. And one thing I will mention is climate chaos is not helping. As we stand here today, the air you're breathing is very different than the air when I was born. I'll invite you to do a little exercise and hold your breath for 3 seconds. Ready? Breathe in. Exhale. We kind of think of air as unchangeable, but air is changing very fast. That air you just had in your lungs, it doesn't have 3% more carbon than when I was born. It doesn't have 5% more carbon. It has 33% more carbon. Huge factor in absorbing heat. And then you throw in the methane that's coming out of fracking in the natural gas system, and feedback loops like the white ice being replaced by blue water in the Arctic, so the Arctic absorbs more heat, more sunlight, and then lose more ice. We're seeing huge changes, and here in Oregon, our snowpack in the Cascades is melting earlier. That means less water for ranching and farming, less water recharging the groundwater that's depended on across the state. It also means far less healthy trout and salmon streams, so it's tied in that way as well. You probably read about warmer water producing algae blooms that are often toxic. That's a problem. You probably read about slow water in rivers like the Klamath being so slow that diseases go from one fish to the next. That's a big problem. Climate chaos is having a big impact. And so while it's not the issue you raised, I will note that part of this is undertaking a very rapid transition off of fossil fuels to renewable energy. One question or two quick ones. Anyone else whose number I read? Okay, so we have the final set here. The first two people to raise their hands here, White, 252. Right over here. And then we'll have one other person, and we'll get the second person lined up. White, 259. Right over here. Okay, here are the final two folks today. And let's see. Keep relatively brief, please.
Okay, White 252, Joel Spector. I work with a lot of local groups, one of which is called Represent Us. It's backing the American Anti-Corruption Act, which is taking on a number of the issues you had raised earlier. I was wondering if you were familiar with it and if you've been supporting it.
So is that in the House side, the Anti-Corruption Act? I don't believe I heard it on the Senate side.
I don't know that it's been introduced yet.
Let me get information on it from you then. Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Catherine Waterfield, 259. This now has gotten to be sort of old news, but I'm wondering, do you have any information about the individuals, I believe from HHS, that went into Kirkland, Washington, and then dispersed out into the community that saw coronavirus patients with no protective gear? And have they been tracked? Have their movements been tracked at all? I have not heard or could not find any information on that.
I'm going to turn to the doctor who probably has more specifics on this case. And I know I saw the concern about it in the press.
So the situation that I am aware of is HHS support and providers who helped with the repatriated claims. And I know that they were tracked very closely by the federal government, that they had to report, their temperatures twice a day were being tracked, their symptoms, just as a part of kind of the routine. In the 14 days after they, interacted with people who are repatriated. So I imagine that the policy is the same across the board. I can't speak directly to the Kirkland situation, but I know that at OHSU we did receive letters of people who went out kind of as an emergent responder to support that mission, and they came back with letters from HHS.
Special thanks to Dr. Castillo, an expert on infectious diseases. Thank you so much, Commissioner Sonia. We are delighted to have you MC today, and it's now going on 22 years since we first met, that I was in the state legislature. And so thank you for using your staff training to become a very excellent elected commissioner for the county. And Camp Withicum, which invited us or enabled us to use this incredible facility. Thank you very much to the Oregon National Guard for that. And most of all, thank you to all of you for being engaged citizens, to coming out and participate in public dialogue and doing so in a very gracious manner. Because we really are a divided nation, and we have a lot of work to do to bring Americans back together. Earlier today, we were in a gymnasium that had a flag up above, and then it said, "United we stand." And I just think how, often we are not standing united, but there's a lot of opportunity for the Russians to sow deeper divisions. And I say that because we've had recent reports just on the coronavirus of how they were spreading stories that this was an invention designed out of a laboratory in the United States, trying to undermine the United States. And they try to drive divisions between groups of Americans. They make up stories. They are also still hacking the accounts of public officials. Most of us have been called in to be briefed about the hacking that's going on by foreign powers. They're trying to get any information. We know that there are plans to try to disrupt the upcoming election. They are still using both people and botnets to spread a high level of disinformation. So one of the challenges, I think of a friend of my wife's, who she was visiting some high school friends in Minneapolis. And I called Mary, and she said, "Well, my friends have some questions for you." So we had this little mini town hall. And after they asked me several things, one of the women spoke up and said, "Here's the problem, Jeff, and that is we hear one thing here and one thing there, and how are we to know what's true?" That is a challenge. That is a challenge in our community. And so I encourage people to keep looking at various sources and comparing them. Look for people you trust to be validators, and let's keep the communication going between all parts of our society as we have today. Thank you so much. God bless you.